Hi, and welcome to the Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast presented by Wolf Precision Incorporated, where we learn about and share long range shooting and custom rifle building. I am your host, Jamie Dodson, and welcome to the show. Hi, and welcome to episode 263 of Wolf Precision's Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Dodson, and welcome back to the show. In this episode, we're going to be talking about movers, mags, and springtime. So really excited to get this season started off. We have our shooting schools coming up, some different classes. Also want to give you some updates, and we had some questions that we wanted to cover here in this particular podcast. So welcome everybody back to the show. Sorry for the delay. Here we go. Before we get started, I want to say a quick thank you to MDT. MDT is the maker of fine rifle chassis. They make a lot of different makes and models, including the Oryx, which we think is one of the most unsung heroes in the rifle building world. For the price of the chassis, it's one of the strongest and I believe one of the best values on the market, right up to their H&T 26, which is a fantastic hunting chassis. So lots of different makes and models to look at. You can learn more at mdttac.com. That's mdttac.com. So we just got back from the Great American Outdoor Show, and of course we had SHOT Show in January. It's been really busy here, lots of cool stuff going on, and haven't had a chance to really get into the podcasting room and knock out a podcast. And this is our first opportunity back here, and just want to give everybody some updates of everything that's going on here and get ready for the 2026 shooting season. So SHOT Show and the Great American Outdoor Show, both great shows. It was really nice to get out, meet everybody, travel a little bit, talk to everybody about all the cool things we have going on and things that we're working on, and hear what everybody's interested in, what everybody's doing for hunts and events and match shooting. All that stuff's really getting ready to kick off. So it was a great time and a great event, but I am glad they're over. They are exhausting. It is a lot of time away from the shop here. And of course, when we get back, we usually have 2 months worth of work to do to catch up for being gone for 10 days. One of the things I wanted to touch base on with this particular podcast was a little bit about shooting moving targets in a different program that we have coming up here at the end of the month, and wanted to send out an invite for everybody or anyone that would like to join us. So engaging in shooting moving targets. I've talked about this in the past, but if you're into hunting and you're into match shooting, the ability to learn how to engage movers properly, how to use your reticle properly, all the techniques and math involved, it is a really cool craft. And more so for hunting. You know, at today's modern matches, you're going to engage some mechanical movers here and there. They are timed, and once you get the timing down, then it's just, rinse and repeat. The technique is still there, and if you want to get first round impacts, of course, knowing how to do it and not have to spot and follow up and just make adjustments on the fly is really nice. If you're a hunter, though, one of the things I always ask hunters or anyone coming through our long-range shooting school here is, how many times have you looked at an animal through your rifle scope and either in your head or out loud was saying, please stop, please stop, please stop, as it's walking away or as it's walking into the tree line, right? Once you learn the art of engaging movers and you have the ability to do some math at different distances, especially a little bit of work ahead of time, it changes your hunting forever. It doesn't always mean you're going to get a shot off at a moving animal, but what it does is it puts an invaluable tool in your toolbox that you could actually pull out and use in some of the circumstances that you're going to get put into. So for example, you do a little bit of homework ahead of time and you figure out the average walking speed of an elk. That doesn't change much between 300 and 500 yards. If the animal is walking off the field and the conditions are right, you've done your wind, you've done your elevation, all these things are together, shooting a walking animal and get in front of it with a reticle at 300 yards is not impossible. And in some cases can save your hunt. Same thing with varmint hunting, knowing the average walking speed of a coyote or the average running speed even. If you missed the first one, at least you got a number to get in front of it. That changes, but it's not guessing. It's math. But our world is in constant motion. Rarely does anything set still for any length of period of time. Just sit out on your front porch and watch the animals for a couple hours. If you watch any animals whatsoever, they are constantly moving around unless they're bedded. So having that ability isn't just like, hey, I'm going to shoot at moving animals all over the place. I mean, I'm not trying to tell you that, but what I am saying though is that it just gives you an extra tool if the conditions are right and you've done your homework ahead of time to maybe save that hunt or harvest that animal that you normally would walk away from or let walk away, right? We have a movers class coming up at the end of March, and this is just a little plug here. We only have 3 slots left for the March class. It's taught in Swainsboro, Georgia. You can learn more about it on our website. It's wolfprecision.net, and you can register and you can actually camp there at the range with us. I'll be camping as well. Ought to be a great class. If you like to learn how to shoot movers, I certainly recommend you attend the class because we teach it old school. There are ways to train movers, and shooting movers is one of my favorite things to do. I certainly enjoy it. And training movers, we have been doing it probably longer than anybody as far as to the public. We've been probably teaching these classes for going on 17, 16 years as far as the movers go. And we usually hold a class every other year because it does require me leaving the shop for a week. And I actually teach every class. So I will be there instructing the class. If you'd like to join us, 3 slots are available. You can register at wolfprecision.net. Love to have you. If you don't have training, for example, fundamentals of marksmanship, learning to read the wind, we have a train up day prior. And I really recommend if you haven't taken any professional training, make sure you attend our online long range shooting school and get some of the basics down before you come. That way you'll be better prepared to continue on that learning curve to the movers. We had a question from a customer that had called this morning. Magazines have been an absolute, well, let's just say they're a nightmare. They are not the quality that they were 20 years ago. There's so many people making them, how they fit, the finish of them, how they're stamped. They can have a lot of issues, and we actually offer what we call a bullseye package in which we actually custom fit all the magazines and bend lips and polish lips and fix springs and all the things you're going to want to do to a bolt action rifle to get it just to run flawlessly, right? But we did have a customer call this morning with a particular question, and I thought it was a good opportunity to talk about it, maybe throw some free tidbits out here to help you a little bit. But he had a polymer 3-round mag in his hunting rifle, and when he put the 3rd round in it, he just couldn't quite get everything up to lock into place, and he was talking about modifying the magazine. And yes, you can do that. Sometimes you have to modify the spring a little bit. Sometimes you have to modify the lips. And sometimes you actually have to modify the latch. So there are some of these chassis have an adjustment where you can adjust, how far up and down the engagement latch is in the actual chassis itself to give you a little bit of breathing room to the bolt. But he said 2 round seat's fine. When he goes to put 3rd round, I can't quite get it to close. He's almost there. And so sometimes you even have to actually modify the magazine in the back where the latch is just like sort of that little lip that sticks out that locks into the chassis. Sometimes you can take like a diamond file or something and just carefully, move that up a little bit to give you an extra 10 or 15 thou for it to lock onto. Sometimes there's a burr on there, and a lot of them that are molded, they can have, pieces sticking out that's just not allowing it to quite like lock in for say. So don't be afraid to play with your magazines. We are going to do, we are filming our prosumer gunsmithing school. I think we're on episode 11. So we just posted up on how to install the ace and barrel and all that. So if you want to check out some pretty cool stuff, you can stop over to our website at wolfprecision.net, check out the prosumer gunsmithing school, or you can see us on Patreon. It's $19 a month to attend the class, and we're going to teach you everything to build and maintain a world-class rifle, including using the ace system, which is one of the things that we do here. But we have episode 11 up there, and we're going to do a bunch of stuff on magazines and fitment. You would be surprised on what we actually do. We have taught building classes here in many years past, and we've taught in many classes. And when we get to the magazines, like fitting and finishing them, sometimes our eyes like get really big on how much we actually do to fit a magazine to get it to work properly, and all the little tricks that we've learned over 20 years. I mean, we could probably do 5 videos on it, at least 5 videos, maybe 10. So don't be afraid to play with your magazine. Don't be afraid to adjust some things, clean everything up. One of the other things I would point out right away is sometimes if they're a stamped magazine, the lips up on top are very sharp and very hard, sharp edges. A lot of times we'll polish those off, sometimes with different grits of sandpaper and then even some steel wool or Scotch-Brite after we do that to take the edges off so it's nice and smooth to help the round slide out of the magazine a little bit better and without scratching the brass all up. And then also sometimes we'll open the lips up in a V forward just ever so slightly to allow the round to pop out a little bit earlier or have a smoother pop out of the magazine as well. I just have to be careful you don't open the lips up too far that the rounds just start ejecting themselves out the top of your magazine. But we're going to cover a lot of these, and we just spent some time on the phone talking to the customer about this morning. So I thought it was a great opportunity just to throw out some little things on magazines that you're going to have to mess with and play with to get your rifle to feed and function beautifully. It's super, super important. And then the last part is spring. So spring is coming. We are getting ready for the shooting school season. I think we're going to be in the 70s next week. Thank goodness. We're in central Pennsylvania for those that don't know where we're located. And I swear we were in the Arctic Circle for weeks. I think in February when we were at the Great American Outdoor Show, we had temperatures well below zero and wind chills at 15 below and 30 below and 20 below. And I think we actually had the temperatures themselves dipping down to like -5 and -10. It was cold. For us here, we're sort of used to having these big swings, but we haven't really had much of a break this winter. We usually get out to the range a couple of times to do some filming and do some shooting. Of course, the range was snowed in, and then of course it froze in, so there's really no way to get back to it and try to stay warm somewhat reasonably when it's that cold. And so we're super excited. The spring's finally here. Things are starting to melt. We're gonna have some warm weather next week, so we're gonna start into our range maintenance and start filming and finishing our reloading class, which we're about halfway through as well. So super excited to have the spring here. The shooting schools, they kick off usually about the end of April, beginning of May. And then we usually wrap up our shooting school sometime in October. Just to throw it out there, we only have a couple slots through some of the classes, but we have just announced a September class where we had 5 slots we just put up, and we have 4 still available. And the fall classes sometimes are some of my favorites just because the weather's nice and cool, the leaves are changing. It's really a pretty time to be here in central Pennsylvania. And so those that have been looking, our classes have been almost full since January. We did open up a class in September of 2026. We allow 5 students in a class, and in this particular class, we have 4 slots open. So if you'd like to join us, great opportunity to jump on over and join us. You can register right there online. And of course, you can use a school rifle or bring your own rifle through as long as you're suppressed, or you can rent a suppressor here for your rifle. There's some requirements there on our website. So we just finished up a reloading class last week, and that's one of the reasons why I want to jump on here real quick and talk about safety a little bit. And then we have our last reloading class for the year in April. So if you go over to our website again, I'm not trying to throw a bunch of stuff here that's advertising, but we only have one more in-person reloading class that we're doing. It's going to be at the end of April. And if you'd like to join us, we'd love to have you. I believe there are 3 slots left for the class. So if you'd like to come in and spend 2 days with us here and learn the art of reloading, I teach every class. We have a couple slots open, but in the class, we talk a lot about, and we do this in the long range shooting school too, is about ricochets and the dangers of the different ammunition that people make and the different places that they shoot them. So, for example, safety is a big deal in reloading. And so we spend a fair amount of time talking about all the aspects of it, including when you select the bullets that you're going to reload and where you're going to shoot them at to practice. Solids, full metal jackets, full copper bullets, bonded bullets, you can ricochet like crazy, and those rounds can go forever and ever. And what I said in the class here is what you have to be really careful of now is paying attention to your backstop behind the range. So the conversation went from there to talking about ricochets and then tracers. If you want to see something really neat, go to our website and look at our blog page. So go ahead and the far right, you can click on a button that says all this information and go down and click on our blog page. The reason I'm asking you to do that is in that blog page is we do an article on ricochets, and I actually included some videos for you to watch if you've never seen ricochets. So these guys are shooting tracer rounds, and they're shooting, and the one clears a bluff that's probably 2,000 feet. And they're laughing. It's a 50 cal or 338. Who knows? That round went miles downrange. And just the lackadaisical or the concept not sticking in their brain that is going somewhere they have no idea off to the right, and you can kill somebody. And then the same thing, these other guys are shooting ricochets at dusk, and it cleared an entire hillside. And the guy starts cussing like, "Oh, what's up? Get the hell out of here!" Like too late. The damage is already done. If that round hits somebody, so when we started talking about that, I said to him, like, a lot of your ranges that are opening up now, you'll see a lot of matches opening up. You have to do yourself a favor and you have to look on Google Maps and see physically what is directly behind the range and maybe off to the right and left about 30 degrees. I would say is a good number because of the ricochets and how crazy they can veer off path. You will be shocked to look that, there's a little hill at the last target and, there's some berms and some trees. And then all of a sudden, 200 yards on the other side of that last tree that you cannot see is a house directly behind the range. You will be shocked how many times you see this. If you go to one of these events, if you go to one of these ranges and you're shooting the wrong ammunition that's known to ricochet and you clear that, and you hit somebody, they are coming for you. They are going to come after you with everything that they can do. So not only be careful on the ammunition that you select to shoot. So our rule here is no full metal jackets, no solids. Be careful with bonded bullets. And even at that, you don't get a get out of jail free card with even 168 federal gold medal match. They'll bounce if they ricochet and hit the correct angle off the ground. And there's been documents of them flying a mile down range ricocheting. So you have to do yourself a favor to look behind your range and see how far back and make sure there aren't houses or people directly in line of fire. That is so important. Range management, verifying the people at the facility aren't shooting the inappropriate ammo. So, for example, OTM, open tip match, are almost like full metal jackets, but with a hollow point in the front. They will ricochet like crazy. You'll be shocked at how many times over the different years that we're on the firing line and we hear, and this is at matches, events, other things that we've done, not here at the home range, but you hear, "Pew," and you hear that round go, and you're like, oh my God, where'd that one go? And you're looking like, who shot that and where did it go? And, if it's at the school and we hear that, we're inspecting ammo. I mean, that is a ricochet. Right. So, and we do inspect the ammo here at the school. We think it's really important that if somebody tries to sneak in with ammunition that we say you can't have, we got to catch it and stop it from being launched downrange. So, the reason I bring all this up is literally the day after the class, 2 days after the class ended. If you want to do some research here in central Pennsylvania, a 5-year-old girl was hit in the back with a ricochet that bounced out of a range. It made Pennsylvania State Police headlines. If you go to Pennsylvania State Police's website, you'll see the story. I don't know all the details other than they found the range and they found the shooters. Now, I'm curious if it was an actual working range or if it was somebody's property where they just put steel up all over the place and was ricocheting rounds out. I'm also curious as the ammunition and the rifles that they were shooting. Now, the good news is, and I'm not taking this lightly, the good news is the ricochet was far enough downrange that it was a superficial wound and the girl is going to survive. It didn't do any severe damage. So she is alive and well, and unfortunately has had the experience of actually being shot in the back at 5 years old. But I want to go back to the shooters. They're responsible. They are 100% responsible. They are liable. There's a chance that they're going to have criminal charges filed on them that could ruin the rest of their lives. There are chances that they could have civil penalties and lawsuits filed against them for the rest of their lives. You know what I'm saying? So it's not that I'm saying they don't deserve it or they do deserve it. What I am saying though is you have to make sure you're not in that group and you have to look where you're shooting. You should put every safety guard in place to make sure that where you're shooting at is the best and the safest you can make it. Can you predict that somebody might be walking a trail a mile and a half downrange somewhere? No, you can't, right? You might not even see that on Google Maps. But if you look on Google Maps and you see there's a house 100 yards on the other side of the last trees on your home range, should that be a red flag that maybe you shouldn't shoot there at all? I think so. Should it be a red flag that you shouldn't shoot like military surplus ammunition there? I really think so. I mean, you are going to ricochet most of those rounds out of that dirt bank. They are going to go airborne. And when they do, you have the risk of doing that. So be really careful. I'll tell you another story without giving up the range location, but I know of a range here in central Pennsylvania because I was part of these conversations that the group was having amongst themselves because accusations were being thrown around all over the place. So a barn a mile down range had bullet holes in the roof. And somebody had made the accusation there at the range that they thought somebody was shooting it intentionally. And, for me, That would be stupid. Like, I don't know anybody that's that irresponsible to go ahead and zero up on a building bound range where they can't see if anybody's in it or not, right? However, though, I do know that that range had a history of being a very flat range with like slate. And rather than shooting into the berms, they would set targets at random distances and go back to the 1,000-yard line. And if they missed a target, there was no backdrop. So the rounds would hit the slate, clear cut, hard surface and just ricochet right off. And I remember years ago I was there, and this didn't happen when I was there. I showed up to shoot, and there were some guys testing some ammunition from a major manufacturer, major manufacturer. It's just 20 years ago. And they did this. And I just showed up to start shooting, and I looked at them. I'm like, who are you guys with? And, it's not trying not to be too nosy or bossy, but I was like, rather than them shooting into the dirt bank and everything else where they should be shooting, they backed up to a much more comfortable position, and they sat targets up that had, 300 yards of flat surface behind it where their bullets were then hitting and ricocheting out. And I'm like, those rounds are ricocheting. Maybe you guys should shoot into the bank down there where you're supposed to. And man, I got the look. And by the way, they were shooting up to 338s. Yeah. So they looked at me like, who the hell are you and talking to us? And why are you telling, not, yeah, I was just trying to give them a suggestion that, hey, that's a really stupid idea to be doing exactly what you're doing right now. And these are industry professionals, right? So I just left. But I know probably a year later, so many accusations are flying around about this barn with holes in the roof. There were bullet holes, no doubt. That's how quick it happens. And if somebody would have been in that barn, maybe it was these guys, If somebody would have been in there and you'd hit them and killed them or severely maimed them, you have to live with that for the rest of your life. That guy that shot that 5-year-old girl with that ricochet, and by the way, they'll know whose rifle it was. Make no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They've already got the bullet and they've got the rifles. And so, just because there's 50 people they're shooting doesn't mean they're going to not find out which of the 50 person fired that round that went downrange and hit somebody. They're going to lab test those rifles. They're already going to know the caliber, and they're going to narrow it down, and they're going to be able to point the finger right to the person that pulled the trigger, and that person's responsible. That person has to sleep with themselves knowing that they were inches away from shooting a 5-year-old in the head with a ricochet. You have to live with that the rest of your life. Imagine the nightmares and the explanations that he has to do to his coworkers, his wife, his kids, that he's the person that did that. And did he do some research online as where we're shooting at? What was the rain conditions? Did they have backdrops? Was it something they just randomly set steel up into a field, which is a really dumb idea, by the way. Really dumb idea unless you know what's behind that facility. So anyway, I just want to throw it out there that we just finished up this reloading class, and we actually talk about ricochets for several minutes, just like we're doing here in the podcast. And it was the next day that made the news here. So if you want to Google it, 5-year-old, hit with ricochet bullet in central Pennsylvania, it'll probably pull up the state police website as well as WTAJ Channel 6 News. They did a story on it, and I'm just waiting to hear some of the more details to make sure that we're doing everything possible to make sure we're trying to protect ourselves and getting, warnings of, hey, this didn't work, that didn't work. This is the ammunition they were shooting. This was, the backdrop they were shooting and all that stuff. Super, super important. Anyway, well, listen, we have a lot of really cool stuff coming up this year. And the next podcast we're going to release next week, we're going to dive into and continue on our Fundamentals of Marksmanship series. We'll have about 2 or 3 more of those posting up, which I think perfect time for this time of the year. Everything's going off. The classes are starting. Shooting is starting. It's going to be a great shooting season. And I'm really looking forward to getting all the schools up and running and actually going out and enjoying some nice 60 and 70 degree weather. I would like to thank our last sponsor, Krieger Barrels, to make our fine cut rifle barrels. They are one of our favorites here to use in-house. They have a new program called Krieger Direct. We can have your barrel in as little as 2 to 3 days. And their lead time on their barrels right now is about 4 months, 3 to 4 months, which is really incredible. So we've been very blessed to use those guys and use their barrels for more than 20 years. I actually got a chance to interview John Krieger in a previous episode. If you want to search through our previous episodes and look for that, I think it was about maybe 2 or 3 months ago. It was a really great interview. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to join us. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. If you'd like to attend any of our classes online, that is called the Wolf Pack. It's $19 a month and gives you access to all 3 of our online classes. We have the Long Range Shooting School up there. We have the Reloading class is halfway through, and we're just starting on our 11th episode or 12th episode of our Prosumer Gunsmithing School. And so if you want to learn how to build your custom rifle using the ACE system or how to take care of your personal rifle, it's going to be a great resource. And then don't forget, we have a couple classes coming up, reloading class in person in April, moving target class at the end of March. And then, of course, we have a couple slots for our in-person long-range shooting school. So I want to thank everybody for taking the time to join us. If you enjoyed the podcast, you'd like to share it, please feel free to do so, especially this one, to talk about the ricochets and talking about rounds coming out of the range. I think it's always a really important conversation to have. And I think when you hear of incidents like this, it makes you think a little bit about what you're doing at the range and what you're shooting and where you're shooting, and just puts those guards up to say, hey, this not something that just randomly happens to nobody. This could happen to you. And so passing this episode along, I think, might get people thinking a little bit more about safety. I have special range safety officers and people that run these facilities. And then, of course, if you have any questions, reach out to us, share it. And then if you wouldn't mind leaving us a nice review, we really appreciate that. It helps us in our standing. So thank you, everybody, for taking the time to join us. My name is Jamie Dodson. I'm your host, and you're listening to Wolf Precision's Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building Podcast.